Bill talked about the future. He also talked a little bit about the past. And I've been asked to talk to you about polio. You'd never guess that, would you? Because you see, polio and the eradication and the certification of the eradication of polio is part of our past, it's our present, and it's our future. Bill mentioned that we began in 1985. Actually, we began in 1978-79 when a man by the name of Sir Clem Renoff read in Time magazine that smallpox had been eradicated. He called a man by the name of John Sever. John Sever is still alive today. He's on the International Polio Plus Committee. And he asked him as the district governor, was there something of this magnitude that Rotary could accomplish? Bill also mentioned that how we were an organization that was established to do good within the community. And at that time, that's exactly what Rotary was doing. Community projects, club-oriented projects. So this was a whole change of direction for what Rotary was going to be able to do. He made a second call, and that call was to a man named Jim Bomar from Shelbyville, Tennessee, who was going to follow him, Sir Clem, as president. And he said, if I start this project, and if Rotary does agree to do this, are you going to continue it? Because we don't need to have a project that just starts and is over. And they agreed. That project was go to the Rotary International Board and the foundation and to ask for $760,000 for which they would provide vaccine and vaccinate 6 million children in the Philippines. 1979, that occurred. 1984, moved forward a little bit. Carlos Canseco was president of Rotary International, and he asked, maybe we should have a committee that studies how in the world we can really eradicate polio from the face of the earth, and how much money will it cost? The committee met, the committee studied, and the committee said it's going to take $120 million to eradicate polio. I asked Bill Sargent one time, I said, how in the world did you come up with $120 million? And he said, well, it was easy. There was about 100 million children under the age of 5, and for 60 cents, you could provide the vaccine for that 100 million children. Now, at that point, Rotary wasn't looking to the future like Bill said, because there are also children born every year. So if you're going to have children born every year, you ought to have a little contingency. But they set a goal of $120 million, and they raised $247 million. Well, we all know that wasn't enough. So in 2003, they set up another committee. And that committee decided that we needed $80 million. That wasn't enough. But the key to all of that is that we were successful in making the commitment. We were successful in raising the $247 million. But the unwritten success is the world paid attention to Rotary. And Bill talked about that a little bit, about how that Rotary is unique, and how that Rotary keeps its commitment, and how that Rotary has persevered and stayed with this project the #1 priority project of the Rotary world, as established by the board of directors, as established by the trustees of the Rotary Foundation and the Council of Legislation, is the certification of the eradication of polio. In 1988, the world took attention to Rotary, and the fact that the World Health Assembly said this can be done. Now, what I really think they said, there's a group of people that's got $247 million. How can we spend it? And we were willing to partner with them. So think about it. It was people just like you and I that set this goal that got the attention of the world. And it was the World Health Association, an organization, that then said, hey, we can accomplish this. So the World Health Assembly said, let's get involved with Rotary. That's how WHO, CDC, and UNICEF and Rotary became partners in the eradication of polio. So we've continued on that journey. And there is a saying, a Chinese saying, that says, a journey of 1,000 miles must begin with one single step. So you see, we've taken several steps along the way. In 1985, when we started, there was over 1,000 cases per day in 125 countries. Last year, we ended the year with 223 cases worldwide. As of yesterday, we now only have 11 cases of polio in the world. A few years ago, Judy and I had the opportunity to go to Nigeria. That was in 2004 when we were told that we could not provide vaccine to children in Kano, Nigeria. Because you see, that was an American plot to sterilize the girl child so there'd be no more Muslims. That was going to create cancer. It was going to cause HIV. But we did get to go outlying areas in other states, and I'll never forget the opportunity of holding a small child in my arms. Because you see, there's nothing more precious in this world, especially to a mother, than a baby. And when she hands you that child and trusts you because you're a Rotarian to put those 2 little precious drops in that child's mouth, when you look up at her, you don't speak her language, she don't speak your language, but she smiles. And she smiles. And what she's saying in that smile is thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you, Rotarians, that you cared enough to persevere. You cared enough to stay involved. And you cared enough for a child that you did not even know that you would give them those precious drops so that they would not be crippled or even die. Thank you because you cared enough to get involved. Bill mentioned a man by the name of Bill Gates. Bill Gates took notice of Rotary. Bill Gates took notice of what Rotary was doing. And Bill Gates said, I will give you $100 million. Now, I don't think anybody in this room can really fathom $100 million. Can you even think about it being transferred that quick to the Rotary Foundation? He transferred $100 million to the Rotary Foundation for Rotary to agree to do 2 things. Number 1, he wanted us to raise $100 million by December the 31st of 2010. Number two, he wanted us to spend that $100 million of his prior to December the 31st of 2008. Now you notice there's a 2-year difference there? What trust, what confidence that here is the man that has more money than 8 countries in the entire world says to you, I trust you. I have confidence in you because Rotarians keep their word. And if the Rotarians have promised the children of the world that they will stay with it, they will vaccinate, they will eradicate polio, and they will stay until certification, I trust you. That's a lot of confidence, isn't it? That's a lot of trust. Well, we had about $42 million. Bill Gates came back and says, I'll give you $255 more million if you'll raise another 100. What confidence, what trust that he had in you and the people that came before you and the people that's going to be there after you in the future. We didn't raise $200 million. We raised $228.7 million. The 6 districts sitting here at this multi-district PETS contributed about $4.2 million to that campaign. And we thank you for that. We thank you for what you did, but the fight is not over. Well, we've had problems, haven't we? We had religious problems. We've had geographic problems. We've had wars. You think about it, we've had it. But let me bring you up to date on a couple of things that I think is extremely important. Because we've all heard about what happened in Nigeria when we couldn't do it. If you think about the 3 countries that are left, Afghanistan, I didn't do that. Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Nigeria. It's all in the Muslim parts of those countries. So the Muslim leaders recently had a meeting in Egypt. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what they said. They met for 2 days at a conference to devise strategies to protect Muslim children against polio virus. The participants decided to hold a meeting with the Pakistani government next month. And I quote, "The killing of field workers is completely against the teachings of Islam and is strongly condemned," end quote. It states that the protection of children against the polio virus is a collective responsibility of the Muslim Ummah, especially its religious and political leaders. The scholars also agreed that vaccination of children is a religious obligation of Muslim parents. It went on to further recommend that religious leaders and institutions closely collaborate with the polio eradication program in planning effective and appropriate strategies to reach children in the 3 countries where polio is still endemic, including Pakistan. It further states, and I quote, "The scholars reached a consensus that the Muslim Ummah faces a serious problem of persistent polio that threatens all Muslim children." So that is a great accomplishment in the fact that the Muslim leaders are now getting on board and saying, we know we have a problem. How many of you read the paper where there was 9 health workers killed in Pakistan? How many of you also know that one of the sisters of one of the health workers in Pakistan, who's 16 years old, said the next day after the killings, and her sister was killed, I want to go finish my sister's job. I want to be a healthcare worker because I want Pakistan to be free from polio. Well, unfortunately, that girl could not get that job because she's too young. But yesterday, the Pakistani government agreed to hire 250 healthcare workers to work in their neighborhoods, where they are trusted to help eradicate polio. So, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, we are on the way, and we are this close. Bill Gates made a comment one time, and I happened to be in a meeting, and he said that the reason he gave the money to Rotary because Rotary had the passion and the ability to spend the money where it was needed the most. And there's that word that Bill came out with a few minutes ago called passion. Because it is your passion. It's my passion. It's each and every one of our passions to see that there's no child that ever gets crippled or dies from polio. We're not through. We got to continue to raise money, and we've got to continue to do other things. So we're going to the Gates Foundation, and you can't talk about this till after the trustees approve it. But in all reality, we tried to do this one a little bit different. We did go to the IPPC, International Polio Plus Committee, another one of those acronyms. And we did go to the board and the trustees and said, let us make a proposal to the Gates Foundation. Now, this was after I found out that Gates was already going to spend $300 million a year for the next 6 years in order to eradicate polio. You see, the WHO, World Health Organization, CDC, UNICEF, and then the Gates Foundation hired an accountant to do some research, and they've decided that this program that started out at going to cost $120 million, it's now going to cost $5.5 billion to finish it. By December the 31st of 2018, it is anticipated that we can reach certification, which means we have to do that last case by 2015. So we are this close. Bill Gates said in that room in New York when we were talking, it was UNICEF, WHO, CDC, and Rotary. And we talked about money and finishing the job, and we talked about apathy. We talked about people being tired. And then we talked about what's the end purpose. We're really not tired. We've really got a job to finish. And we can finish it because we said we would. But Bill Gates said something in that meeting that I'll never forget. And these are his exact words. Nobody wants to disappoint Rotary. Nobody wants to disappoint Rotary. Why would someone of that stature say that? Because he knows the value of Rotary. And he knows the value of what each and every one of you can contribute to this campaign. So yes, it's going to cost $5.5 billion. Yes, Bill Gates has said, I will give you $300 million per year for 6 years. So we're going to the Gates Foundation and we're going to ask them for $35 million. We're going to say we'll spend $35 million a year for the next 5 years, and we want you to match that 2 for 1. Now, I've got reason to believe he's going to do it. I mean, you know, it's just money. Bill Gates will sign that agreement. But I'm counting on each and every one of you to sign an agreement. That agreement is you're going to go back to your districts. You're going to ask for 20% of that DDF that is not used for other educational or humanitarian programs. I'm going to ask you to go back to your clubs, and I want you to set a goal for this next year as to what can you raise within your community. Many of you know we've had Sergeant Select for years out here. We raised $260,000 in contributions for people to get a bottle of Sergeant Select. We've had equestrian games, we've had ball games, we've had soccer games, we've had everything you can think of. In Switzerland, they sold sunflower seeds. I didn't know sunflower seeds could be so valuable, but they were. It just takes a little thinking out of the box, and we can do the $35 million. That's a piece of cake if you stop and think about it. But it takes commitment. It takes each and every one of you to make that commitment, to make it real. Do we believe that we can conquer polio? Yes. I didn't hear you. Yes. Do we believe we can do $35 million a year? Yes. How about 40? Yes. All right, now we got a commitment for 40 down here, 45. We can do it. We will do it. We promise the children of the world, and let us proceed. Two people here today that I want to recognize. I could recognize everybody, but the other thing we're working on is with the United States government. We got John Adams, John Sayers here that are working with us. Jim Lacey just made an appeal to the United States government. We think we can get $150 million a year out of them. Your tax money, by the way. My tax money through CDC and UNICEF.
Thank you, everyone.
So, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. Thank you for what you've made a commitment to do. And thank you, and let's look forward to 2018 when we can say we did it. And to answer a question that was come up last night, and I'll sit down. There was a question that came up about what is going to be Rotary's next major project. There will not be one. It takes the Council of Legislation in order to have another major project. And so until 2013, 16, 19 would be the first time it could be considered. I don't know what it will be, if there will be. But let's finish polio, because that's what we said was our #1 project. Thank you.